Okay, we've got 9 watching so far. I think we'll wait for a few more to pop in before we get started. Here we go, up to 140. Okay.
Hi, folks. Welcome, welcome.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We've got a great presentation today with Peter Cohan. My name is Jacob.
That's an assumption.
Oh, excuse me. Hopefully a great presentation here with Peter. I think we can assume as much. I'm Jacob Cullum. I'm the Digital Marketing Manager at Consensus, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. Now, DEMOFEST is presented by Consensus, and Consensus is intelligent demo automation software that helps scale pre-sales with interactive video demos. You can learn more about GoConsensus, or you can learn more at goconsensus.com, or you can also view our automated micro demo that's in the link in the Docs tab, which is on the right of your screen. And Consensus is proud to provide this event for free to all attendees. However, we would like to invite each of you to donate to our company's humanitarian organizations if you'd like to. You can learn more about this and donate by visiting the DEMOFEST Gives Back booth. That's in our virtual expo hall in the booths tab. Or again, there's a link in the Docs tab on the right of your screen. And we invite you to join us in our DEMOFEST community on Discord. Our community is where you can connect with speakers, get exclusive access to content and events, and where the conversation will continue long after DEMOFEST has ended. So please join us on Discord. Again, that link's in the Docs tab too. And please do participate in today's session. On the right side of your screen, you'll see a few ways you can engage with us. The chat function here, go in, say hi, who you are, where you're from, comment there. Also, you're going to see a poll today in this tab. Please do participate. It's really going to guide the whole presentation based on how you engage with us in that poll. And our speaker will be taking questions from the audience at the end of the session, as long as we have time. So please put your questions there right here in the Q&A box, again on the right. And if at any time you're having technical difficulties, you can head down to this gear at the bottom of your screen, and you'll see a help document, and you can troubleshoot any common issues that you might be having. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker. Peter Cohan is the founder and principal of the second derivative and the great demo and doing discovery methodologies, focused on helping software organizations improve their pre-sales, sales, and marketing results, primarily through improving organizations' demonstrations and discovery skills. He has experience as an individual contributor, manager, and senior management in marketing, sales, business development, and as a member of the C-suite. He's also been and continues to be a prospect and a customer. And with that, I'll turn the rest of the time over to you, Peter.
Perfect. Welcome, everybody. A note, many of you may know that I'm thrilled to use chat. However, due to Goldcast's delightful capabilities, I can't see the chat dialogue while I'm sharing my screen. So I'm going to ask Jacob to harvest and report on any juicy elements that you guys place into chat. So we'll do that. We're going to start off, though, with this poll. So if you go ahead and launch that, there we go. So we're going to start off, and this is a choose your own adventure segment to DEMOFEST. So, I'm going to describe each of these, and you can vote for as many as you wish. It is a Chicago vote, which means you can vote as many times as you wish. So let me just describe some of these. The menu approach. This is a delightful way of enabling your prospect and customer to see what's possible and then to choose those elements, if you will, of your presentation, your demo that they'd like to see. Mousing, this is a tactic. We're going to talk a little bit about how to avoid the dreaded Zippy mouse syndrome disease. Fewest number of clicks. This, again, is very, very tactical. This is just some simple ideas on how to encrispen your demos and make your software appear as easy to use as possible. We're going to talk about, or can talk about, situation slides, the currency of crisp communication and how they can be leveraged and used throughout an organization. Pre-sales, sales discovery, and demo partnering, if you will. Who digs for what? This is really getting into some small but useful pragmatics about discovery as a team sport, both for situation slides and the broader doing discovery methodology. Leveraging use cases. This is pure gold. What we're talking about here is how to take advantage and what to take advantage of with respect to use cases. Broader application of great demo for existing great demo practitioners and those who are interested in learning the methodology, when and how to apply vision generation, the menu approach, technical proof demos, and discovery. Fool's Gold. Now, we only got a couple of votes there, but this is a fun and very useful segment. I would highly encourage you to select this, because in this we've embedded some ideas on how to use portfolio analysis to determine fit and whether or not you should pursue an opportunity or let it alone. Toolkit software. This is a horror story that turned into a great success, but it's really dealing with some of the challenges of what is this thing good for. The last two, the next gold rush, is a look at what might be coming next and just some very brief thoughts on that. And it's actually a setup for the next segment on AI. And then finally, and I'm delighted to report, a preview of Great Demo 3rd edition, and just to give you an overview. So go ahead and choose what you want. To give you about 30 more seconds, and then we're going to take the highest ranked item here and likely begin with that. So give them a few more seconds. And a few more seconds. Okay. And let's lock it down. Jacob?
You want me to close the poll so we'll make it final right now?
Okay. Yep, close the poll. So it's final. And if you want to change your vote, you can do it in chat. But as I said, I can't see chat. So, all right, let me know I should share my screen.
Okay, I'll jump off. It looks like the top choice so far with about 16% is pre-sales, sales, discovery, partnering.
Okay, good. All right, this will be fun. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. These are your choices, so let me share my PowerPoint. All right, let me know if you can, whoopsie. Let me know, Jacob, can you see the screen? Give me a verbal yes or no.
It's looking good. You can see it.
Okay, good. Thank you. So with that, let us dive in. Now, the theme of this episode, since we're way late into DEMOFEST, everybody's probably getting a bit tired. So there's a little entertainment that we're trying to include as well. So what happened approximately 175 years ago on January 24, 1848? Put it in your chat dialog box. And Jacob, let's see if anybody gets it right. Give them just a moment. Going once, going twice, any answers? Jacob? Jacob, are you still with me?
Yeah, I pinned the comment here on the screen. Maybe you can't see that. Andy Spencer.
I cannot.
First, he says California Gold Rush.
There you go. Way to go, sir. All right, so we have to be crisper on these comments. Anyway, so let me offer some numbers. So 750,000 pounds, 103 pounds, 35 and 68 nuggets. These relate to 750,000 pounds, or about 340,000 kilos, the amount of gold that was pulled out of the gold fields during the gold rush. 103 pounds is the largest gold rush nugget that was found. That is approximately 47 kilos. And 35 nuggets and 68 nuggets are the axioms and, if you will, epiphanies that you should be able to pull out of the Doing Discovery book and the Great Demo 3rd edition book. So there you go. So back in history, here's what happened 175 years ago. Gold was discovered. That news traveled very, very rapidly, and people flooded to California. Here's an example of what one of the East Coast gold miners looked like, and this is where they were headed. You'll notice there's actually two gold fields here. This is what most people think of traditionally. There's also the Northern Gold Field. And to give you reference, I live right about there where that little red dot is. So actually, my little town of Trinidad was one of the entrances to these northern gold fields. Here's what San Francisco looked like. A year before, it was a town of about 200 people. All of these ships are abandoned. The people went on shore and headed to the gold fields. And here's what they look like. You will notice this is person doing panning, basically just a slosh at a time. people began to say, you know what, we got to get more efficient. We've got to scale our operations. So they added more water, more dirt, more people, more water, more dirt, more people, more equipment. I don't know why these people all appear to be dressed up. Even more, and you can see that people are beginning to segregate their operation. You've got people that are diggers, you've got people that are sluicers, you've got people that are harvesting the nuggets. And this person here, of course, is the most important because he's making lunch. And then it got even more industrialized. And this, I think, is one of the earliest examples of take your child to work day that has ever been recorded in photos. Even more industrialized, you can see we're beginning to change the environment. Does anybody know what this is? If somebody types hydraulic mining into your chat dialog box, you got the answer right. They were sluicing down entire mountainsides and hillsides. And of course, that was 170-ish years ago, and the impact of that is still being felt at the south end, well, across the San Francisco Bay. These mud flats contain and are comprised of an enormous amount of the silt that washed down from the Sierra during the gold mining. So here's what they're looking for: flakes of gold, nuggets of gold, gold embedded in quartz. That is a 17-pound, what is that, about 7.7 kilo gold nugget, about that big. And of course, this is what people were mining for in the hillsides and in the mountains, which are veins of gold coursing through the granite. There's a lot of similarities here. That's why I did this intro. Here are the gold fields. This is what people are looking for. They began to process it using mechanical means and chemical means. This is a cells development process or cells pipeline type of process. The similarities include prospecting, processing, extracting, and developing and growing. And that's where we want to go with this. So that's the agenda. That's the California Gold Rush, your choice. Now, we've already gone through this topics menu. So what I'm going to do is subvert this presentation, because the one that you were doing as we went through that menu is item number 1 here, the menu approach. So we're going to go ahead and start with that because you were doing it already. So what is the menu approach? Well, it's helping you decide where you want to mine. And in the old pocket mining, when people first started this process, they would do some panning up a river or a stream. And when they found it got gold, they would say, aha, there's gold here and all through this area. There must be a pocket up this hill somewhere. And so they would they would basically dig little holes and explore with the desire to find this pocket, because that's what you're looking for. So we have the same issue here when we're dealing with multiple options, multiple sets of functionality. The menu approach is designed to enable you and your prospect to determine where to mine quickly and effectively. So Jacob, unmute for a second. You've just sat down at this, there we go. You've just sat down at this elegant restaurant, and I'm a waiter, and I come up to you and I say, so what would you like? What do you say?
You tell me. I'll take this.
Yeah. So we've already reached an impasse. And what would help this process if I handed you what?
I'm gonna have to say a menu.
I would think so. So I hand you a menu, and a menu enables you as the prospect to do 2 things. Number 1, to see what's possible on the menu, and then after you reviewed those choices, to choose the menu item or menu items that's most interesting to you. So looking at this menu, what are you going to go for, Jacob?
Let's do tiger prawns, please, Peter.
Ooh, excellent choice. Would you like that on rice or noodles?
Let's do rice.
Let's do rice. Very good. So the menu approach is a terrific way to deal with situations where you have a lot of capabilities you could talk about, and you'd like to narrow in very rapidly on those that are most relevant and important for your prospect. And it enables your prospect to see, number 1, what's possible, and number 2, to choose what is of most interest to them. And what you're going to find here is you're also able to apply the inverted pyramid idea here, which enables you basically is to start with the items that are most important to your prospect, and then tick off, if you will, or check off these items one by one. And if you run out of time, what are you going to lose? Well, the least important items. And by the way, was a fabulous company that applies the menu approach in several different layers in a hierarchy, if you will. And it's called, that's right, consensus. It starts with a menu of your job title. It progresses to a menu of what you'd like to see or not see, and thereon it goes. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the menu approach. If you have any questions on that, let's go ahead and queue them up in the Q&A. And then I'm going to ask Mr. Jacob, which was the item that we had next? Was that pre-sales partnering? I forget which one it was.
So pre-sales sales discovery was the #1 option. Our second option on the menu here is fewest number of clicks, making mine.
Okay, freeze, yep, freeze there. Let's just do it in order. So your choice, sales, pre-sales partnering, who digs for what? So when we look at this, let me grab my annotation tool here again. So you look at this hydraulic mining, and by the way, that gives you a sense of the stream that was flowing out of these things. These two gentlemen are clearly they are involved. They're doing a lot of work. These two gentlemen over here, I don't really know what they're doing, except in the era of Mark Twain, it would be called supervising. So this kind of maps to what goes on in many cases with discovery for complex and enterprise sales. And you often end up in situations like this where I thought you were going to find out this information, or how come you didn't find out this information? So let's take a look at a structured way of looking at how to partner for discovery for these kinds of opportunities. So what you're looking at here is the fabulous great demo situation slide, which is a crisp way of capturing the key elements of information that you need and we need, if you will, to put together critical successful demos. So you can see critical business issue, that's the top level issue, problems, reasons, that's sort of the pain, the specific capabilities is self-explanatory. The delta is the value associated with making the change. The critical data is exactly that. And a VRE is a value realization event. That's small successes. And I've included in the deck here, or I will, definitions of what each of these mean. So from the sales perspective, well, we can hope, but we can't necessarily expect sales to do everything that they might need to do, because they may not have the depth of expertise on the technical side of things, for example. So here's what I typically ask for from my sales folks. I'd like you to be able to understand and uncover critical business issues. I'd like you to dive into and help the prospect reel out, if you will, problems and reasons. I'd like you to be able to uncover tangible expressions of value and uncover and agree on critical dates and potentially some value realization events. Now you notice this leaves some gaps. So how do we cover these gaps? Pre-sales, your turn. What are you going to dive into? Well, you're probably going to cover some of the problems, reasons, the workflow things and related. You'll definitely be the lead on articulating which specific capabilities this prospect needs to solve their problems. And you may need to help with some specific value elements, because you may understand those more intimately than your sales counterpart. And you may also need to provide some suggestions for value realization events. So using a situation slide, you can then, if you will, partition the roles and responsibilities as you see here. And I've intentionally suggested that there may be areas of overlap, and there may be more and bigger, broader areas of overlap. But your job, when you get together prior to discovery conversations, is to reach agreement on who's going to gather what information, and you'll see in a moment how it should be communicated. So that's using situation slides, which are, in a sense, the tip of the iceberg, the visible portion of the iceberg. So for those of you that are intimate with or now learning the doing discovery methodology, there's obviously a lot more information one can uncover. Here's how we might map this for sales. So the opening areas, looking about demographics, asking about the environment. Sales should be able to uncover and discuss the major pain, be able to take a look at some elements of workflow analysis and quantify related pains along the same way. Sales is excellent at uncovering cultural attributes and executing the rapid questions and confirmations and building and articulating a mutual action plan going forward. Pre-sales fills in the gaps. Same things. Pre-sales probably is going to be much more intimately understanding of the workflows and processes. Presales is most likely going to be responsible for the environment, the technical, the physical know-how. May also go into much greater depth with respect to the major pain elements in the extended environment and the related pain elements as well. Presales may not need to look at culture or wrap up, but they certainly are welcome to do so. So to follow the same mechanism that I was using before, I should have noted, Presales is often more intimate with respect to the mechanics of implementation, adoption, and rollout. And or you may need to bring somebody from professional service to assist on that. But again, it's a process of reaching agreement on who is going to do what ahead of time and then executing those and coming together. So ladies and gentlemen, that completes that portion of the presentation. You have any questions on that? Please throw them into Q&A. If there's any, let me just pause here and ask any juicy or interesting comments, Jacob, coming out of the chat dialog box.
We have one question in the Q&A so far. David Smalley asks, what if you come across a prospect that isn't interested in the menu approach? They'd much rather have an SME give them details and answer questions later.
So if they're targeted, then you can be targeted. The menu approach is best when you have multiple topics of interest and or the prospect has multiple potential topics of interest. It's just like a menu in a restaurant. Are you interested in a main dish? Do you want a few appetizers? Do you want a salad? Or are you going to skip directly to dessert? Or you want the whole thing? And we can come back to these questions at the end. So Jacob, which was next on the list there?
Next on the menu is fewest number of clicks, making mining look easy.
Fewest number of clicks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, one of our objectives in a demo, in a technical proof demo in particular, is to prove out ease of use. We want to build a vision in the prospect's mind that is easy for them to use it and they can do it themselves. So to sort of take this to the mining example, here's what San Francisco looked like, or San Francisco Harbor looked like in 1949. In 1849, note all of these ships in the harbor, and again, they've basically been all abandoned. Everybody aboard the cruise, the passengers, had headed for the mines. And what you're looking at here was the site at Sutter's Mill in Coloma. Actually, for those Swiss in the audience, it's Sutter, as you all know, Grüezi wohl, in the gold fields in middle part of California. So the question now becomes, what's the best way to go from here to here? And of course, once you've struck it rich, what's the best way to get back to San Francisco to where you could spend all that gold that you have uncovered? So what do you think, Jacob, about this route? So this guy's been working away at Sutter's Mill in Coloma, and he's decided to go back to San Francisco. What do you feel about this route? Would you say this is particularly direct?
Yeah, it's kind of the Google Maps route from hell, I think.
It is the Google Maps route from hell. So when you compare, this is 8 hours, 20 minutes. And what do you think about this?
Much rather take that option.
Much rather take that option. Yeah, this is the direct route. It is the fewest, well, in this case, the fewest steps or the fewest amount of minutes or hours to get from point A to point B. And that's where we're going with this. But would you guys like a wizard horror story? Do you all remember Wizard software? Let me know if they're typing yes in the chat dialog box there.
We might have to answer for them. You guys feel free to talk in the chat.
That's fine. I'll just do it because they know I'm going to do it anyway. So
okay, we got a yes.
We got a yes. Okay. So I was, as many of you know, one of the things I love to do is ask people to send me demos, or in this case, it was actually a live demo that was recorded. And I watched this demo, and this gentleman was showing a scientific software wizard. And when he went through the wizard the first time, as you can see here, it took 40 minutes to complete it. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, can we set up a quick session? He said, sure. I said, that's a very fully featured wizard you have there, sir. I said, would you go into the software and please execute the same task you showed in the recording? And he says, sure. And when he did it the second time, the amount of time that this path through the software took was 3.5 minutes. That's right, a difference of, 36.5 minutes. What do you think was the difference? Well, it was basically 3 words: if, or, and also. So when he went through this wizard the first time, he started in on the wizard, and then he got to a point where there was a potential branch. There was a branch, and he said, now, if you want to do this other thing, and he explored how to do that. Then he backtracked. He said, now there's another option you could do if you want to do this other thing or this other thing. And actually, there's a couple of different options here, and there's multiple ways to do things. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you take a 3.5-hour, beautifully crisp demo and beat it into 40 minutes of pain and suffering. So the moral of the story here should be what? Well, the moral of the story is number one, and I want to thank Chris Farrell for pointing this out to me. The word horror already has 2 ors in it, so it's already set up for failure, if you will. But the real moral, well, Jacob, what's the shortest distance between these 2 annular points?
It's got to be a straight line.
It would be a straight line. And so when you're doing demos, think in terms of the fewest number of clicks for any pathway that you execute. And instead of diving off to say, now, if you want to do this or you want to do this other thing, and there's 3 different ways you could do this thing, instead, when you're peeling back the layers, let your prospect ask you, hey, is it possible to do this thing or this other thing or do this another way? That is how you solve that problem. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll pause there. Any questions on this? And if not, we can again throw them into the Q&A.
We do have one more Q&A question from Colton. It says, is there any advice for ensuring you leave your prospect remembering the most impactful pieces if you end with the items that they deem least impactful?
Well, so there's 2 elements to this. Number one, the heart of great methodology is basically 3 elements. Number one, do discovery. Use vision generation demos, by the way, to drive it if you want. Number 2, do the last thing first. In other words, deliver the outcome, the deliverables that this particular prospect is looking for right at the very beginning of the demo. So they're seeing what they want right up front, right away, and they can see what's in it for them. And then you turn it into a conversation. That's the 3rd element. And when you move something into a conversation, there's a tendency for people to remember things, because if they're asking questions, they've had to think about things. And then I'll add a bonus, you summarize. When you reach the end of any particular segment, you summarize. So what you just saw here is how easy it is for you to execute the following kind of pathways. So what we just did is we went through what the fewest number of clicks really means and why that's so important to execute doing demos. So I hope that helps answer that question. Let's go on to the next one. What's the next topic on the list, on our menu?
The next item on the menu is Fool's Gold.
Fool's Gold. I sold that pretty well, didn't I? This is a fun segment. So pursuing pyrite is the way I was phrasing this. So question for the audience. When somebody says they've struck it rich, the question really is, have they? So how many of you think the real gold here is on the left, and how many of you think it's on the right? Put it in your chat dialog box, and let's see, Jacob, let's see what people think.
We've got some lefts, some rights. Okay, more lefts.
Still more lefts?
So it's fairly split, but more saying left.
Okay.
And then there's a bunch of right. I don't know.
The more saying, what do you think?
Oh, you know, I've known the answer to this before, and it's completely, there you go.
I'll give you a hint. Fool's Gold is called Fool's Gold for a good reason. It really looks like gold when you have it in a pan. So how do you avoid this? And how do you avoid the resulting wastage if you're pursuing pyrite? So that's what we're going to look at. So Fool's Gold, doing qualification and not doing discovery, doing traditional discovery, which often is simply BANT, which is just qualification, which is insufficient, we've talked about previously. Most demos on the fly or discovery demos, disco demos, is an opportunity to pursue pyrite, Fool's Gold. You're locked into your own software. We did a webinar on that just a couple of months ago if you want to see it. Traditional over demos and throw up, spray and pray, the stunningly awful harbor tours. Most traditional deep dive demos leave people gasping for mental breath. How many of you have ever heard somebody offer a POC way too early in the sales process? And of course, the ever popular, it's a huge opportunity that's unqualified and unstructured and so forth. So, and finally, of course, living in the land of hope, which is what far too many people do. So the end results of these: lost competition, no decision outcomes, wasted demos, typically wastage, which is what we're trying to communicate here. So let's take a couple of examples here of how to avoid this. One simple and very effective way to avoid this is to not just uncover pain and problems, but to, if you will, qualify them. So what are the net levels of needs? Is this something that's a KO criteria, something that if I, the prospect, don't have it, you're not even a player, versus needs, versus wants, versus nice to have, versus the negatives. And I don't care about that. I don't need that. And you know what? I really don't need that. So clearly we want to be able to qualify things. And this is a great way of doing it. Let's take a look at this set of opportunities and forecast amounts. So in your chat dialog box, and you can pick as many numbers as you want, which of these would you be likely to pursue just based on what you're seeing here? So type it in. Let's see, what are they typing? Which opportunity number? Well, I take some tea.
We've got some 4s. Somebody says all. Some more 4s. Okay,
4s and all. I set this up. So let's take a look at each of these opportunities using a portfolio approach to fit. So what you see here in this column are the capabilities, or a listing of them, coming from, if you will, the prospect, the relative importance on a scale, in this case, of 1 to 10, where 10 is really important. A definition of whether or not, or identification of whether or not this is a critical or KO criteria, meaning if this is not present, there's really no reason to have the conversation. Your degree of fit with respect to how the prospect articulated their needs and how well you can actually meet that need. And this is on a scale, it's basically a percent scale. And then if you work this out, you get simple scoring metrics. So for opportunity number 1, prospect number 1, you get a pretty good score and about an 87% fit on this. So that's probably one I would pursue. We've got, well, you can see it here. Opportunity number 2 that we're looking at here is not quite as good. The same 2 capabilities are KO criteria, if you will. The degree of fit here is not really that great, particularly with the first one. There's a few other areas here where the degree of fit isn't really particularly fabulous. When you net it out and multiply it out, it's about a 2/3 degree of fit. So I would consider this perhaps a maybe. I would want to look at what else we have in the pipeline, competition, and some other things. What do you guys think about this one? You could type it in your chat dialog box, but here you've got a 0 for a KO criteria. This is, and some of the others weren't particularly good as well. I think the answer here ought to be, perhaps we should not pursue this because we're simply living in the land of hope. So looking at these 3 so far, I did a little bit of quick math and you can have, if you will, a normalized score. So you can actually take a look at this, not necessarily in terms of the forecast amount coming out of your sales, whatever it is, your CRM system, but something that's more normalized you can take a look at. So I personally would pursue that one avidly. I would look at this one with a little bit of care, and I probably would not pursue this. So now let's take a look at the huge opportunity coming from a new but very hungry salesperson. Take a look at this matrix, and I want you guys to type in your chat dialog box yes, no, or maybe with respect to pursuing this and investing significant time. So Jacob, what are we seeing?
Hopefully some no's. We got a no, all caps. We got a big nope, another nope.
Big no. Okay, and that's exactly the point I'm trying to make. This is a huge opportunity compared to the others. However, there's a 0 fit here with 1 KO criteria, 25% fit, if you will, the second KO criteria. That's not very good. You've got another 0 here, another 0 here. The moral should be, look, folks, we're not going to win this business. there's no sense in digging a hole that's going to take us weeks to dig and finding no gold at all. So this is, if you will, a very simple portfolio approach to take a look at opportunities and building, if you will, a reasonable defensible argument of whether or not we should pursue something or let it alone. So any questions on this? Jacob? And if not, we can go again. We may have time at the end here. Jacob, let's go ahead. What was the next item on the list?
Yeah, no questions coming in yet. Remember, if you have questions for Peter, the Q&A tab is going to be the best place to put them. Next on the menu is the situation slides.
Situation slides, pure gold. Awesome. So what you're looking at here is a $20 gold coin from 1849. Clearly, currency that could be, comparatively speaking, happily received by people. And that's kind of where we're going with this. So how many of you guys remember the telephone game where if you whisper something into one person's ear and then you go around a room and you see what comes out at the end? Well, this is what a lot of organizations suffer from. There's insufficient node CRM. There's a lot of stuff that's sitting around in Slack or email or never even communicated. So what may have started off with faithful Fred stays in bed ends up with Grateful Dead show ahead, which would be rather interesting. So let's introduce a fabulous tool that can help with communication, discovery information throughout the organization. And guess what? It's a great demo situation slide. Based on a per job title basis, it captures the key elements of information that are needed to be able to communicate throughout the organization. So I have a definition here. If you guys want the deck afterwards, just send me an email. I'll be happy to send it to you. So when you're using great demo situation slides, what you're able to do is to share information back and forth between sales and pre-sales. When this opportunity is consummated and it's time to communicate to implementation of professional services, what capabilities this organization is looking for, what value realization events this organization looking to achieve en route to ROI, you can pass situation slides directly to professional services. And along the same lines, you can pass that information on to customer success as they begin to actually operate in production use. Where else might this information want to go? Well, to marketing and product, because they want to understand what are the use cases. Is this new? Is it novel? Is it a variant on what we've had previously? And along the same lines, we may want to pass it to development to either support certain use cases or develop or extend. So it is the crisp currency of discovery communication, a delight way to ensure that you communicate effectively and consistently throughout the organization. So that's that one. What's next, Jacob?
Next on the menu is a preview of Great Demo 3rd edition.
Wow, I thought we weren't going to get to that at all. Well, thank you so much for whoever asked that. So nuggets about to be unearthed. I didn't even have a setup for this. So what you see here is the draft cover for the book. Hopefully this is going to come out within the next several weeks. It is really 2 books in one. And I'm going to urge people as they dig into this to actually pay careful attention to the introduction, because I give some guidance and suggestions on how best to consume what's in the book. So part 1 is the core methodology. We build up the business case. We basically introduce Great Demo. We build up the business case and what happens when they fail. We talk about prospecting. It actually dovetails very, very nicely to this book, which came out last September. We then go through the methodology, what's needed on the business side, the technical side, the pragmatics of, if you will, peeling back the layers and then putting it all together. That's the core methodology. It's almost like 2 books in one. The bonus is, okay, how do we deal with more complex demo situations? There's a terrific chapter now on vision generation demos. You'll hear me talking about these all the time. Now it's laid out in exquisite detail. For those of us who are living as I am right now, completely over the web or partially over the web, there's a fabulous set of best practices and virtual demonstrations. I talk about storytelling, what's a good story, what isn't a good story, how to leverage stories, how to capture and communicate stories throughout the organization. Fabulous work on elements of style. For those of you that are suffering from far too many POCs or POVs or other types of evaluations, this chapter is talking about other forms of proof, giving guidance here on implementing great demo as a practitioner, and then finally some comments about how to ascend to the next level of expertise. So that is Great Demo 3rd edition. It's in production now, and I'm hoping it'll be coming out in just a few weeks. If you would like to pre-order it, I'm going to find a way to do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, well, that's actually the summary portion. What is the next item on the list?
So next we have leveraging use cases.
The best locations to pursue. Excellent. So there's gold in them there hills. That's what everybody says. But where do you look? So I'm going to go through this portion rapidly, because the where you look question maps directly to use cases. And that's where we're going to go. By the way, this is called the Sutro Tunnel. This was a pile of Comstock mines. This is what people were doing to try to find these veins of gold. This is a 2D representation of a 3D model of where gold was found in some of the deeper mines. It was pretty amazing how people went through this. Use cases. This is gold. This is silver. Does anybody know what these other two exquisite metals are? I'll give you a hint. They're in the three-way catalyst in your car. That is platinum, and this is palladium. That's right. Well done. So use cases. The uses for use cases, where I want to start. Use cases are fabulous for sharing in discovery conversations, how other similar prospects and customers were able to use our capabilities to solve their problems. Vision generation demos, exactly the same thing. Consensus demo boards, use cases are delightful that way. Marketing materials, and you use these for new logo sales, upsells, cross sales, expansions, and renewals. Internally, we use these for enablement and training, enabling the channel and preparing the channel, if you will, and of course to help and enable customer success. And these same use cases are what marketing is hungry to receive. Development wants them as well for the same reasons that we were talking about earlier. So use cases, who's going to use them? Well, pretty much everybody that is customer facing in an organization. Who should capture them? Well, the people that know how prospects and customers are using your software tools the best. That includes, first and foremost, pre-sales, sales, enablement, and definitely customer success. And what should these use cases look like? Hint, you've seen this before. Yep, situation slides. So subtly now, instead of talking about what this prospect wants, you're talking about what they took, if you will, and what they gained. So as opposed to they want to reduce waste by 50%, this is what you actually learned that they did. So this is a crisp way of communicating in a very successful and very, very effective format what this particular job title, this particular organization wanted, and then how to communicate this more broadly through the organization. So as a bonus for those people that actually practice great demo, when you pair the situation slide with the corresponding illustration or illustrations, you've got a fabulous, crisp packet to be able to communicate use cases and reuse them over and over and over again. All right, Jacob, that takes us to our next topic, which is?
It's going to be toolkit software.
Ooh, I love this. You notice I love all of them. Toolkit software, what's this good for? Imagine you have just arrived in San Francisco and you're in a store and you've got all these tools that are being presented to you. Look at all these different picks and hammers, and I don't even know what these things are. What are these all good for? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the challenge with toolkit software. Toolkit software are offerings that basically are exactly that. It's a toolkit. You can do so many things with it. The challenge is articulating what kinds of things you can do with it. Have you ever, for those of you that have toolkit software, have you ever been in a situation where you just felt like these guys just don't get it? So, by the way, it's not their fault, it's ours for not being clear in communicating. So I was on my way to a customer in Santa Barbara that had toolkit software, and I suddenly came up with this idea because I saw a Toys R Us on my way to this presentation, and I purchased a kit from a Toys R Us, and I brought it into this this workshop session, and I poured the contents out onto a table, pile of Legos just like that. And I invited a person in front of the room. I said, come up to the front of the room, if you would, please, and just pick out 2 or 3 of these and explain what they are to the audience. And the person dutifully did, picked up one of these and started to articulate, well, it's red, it's white, it's got a pattern of dots. This one has a motor, this one has a little lever. And this went on for about 5 minutes or so. And then I asked the audience, what do you guys know so far? What could you make with this? And everybody basically said, I don't know. I really have no idea. So what, and Jacob, I'm going to put you on the spot here. What is missing from this picture?
You need some kind of instructions.
Instructions? What would be even, imagine you're a Toys R Us. How are you going to choose which box of Legos you want?
You need a beautiful picture there on the box.
Ding, 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 ding. And that's the concept behind great demo illustrations. It's the do the last thing first. It's the illustration. It's the picture on the box that lets us know whether or not this is interesting, and in a sense, we're toolkit software, what this could be used for. By the way, I don't know about you, but this Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, these little Lego snakes kind of weird me out a little bit. I don't know about you guys. Anyway, toolkit software. So the moral is do the last thing first. And that means to understand a discovery, what outcomes, what deliverables your prospect needs or is interested in before you start talking about how the individual tools work and how you put them together. And for vision generation demos, this is delightful. That's where the use cases that you harvested from other similar customers can be used to present and vision of what this new prospect might be able to do with the software tool. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got time for 1 or 2 more. Any others? What do we have next?
Next in line is the next gold rush.
The next gold rush. This will go fast. Next gold rush. This tells you what it is. So let's just go through this very briefly. By the way, I doubt very much the next gold rush US stamps will be 33 cents, but let that go. So here's a bunch of gold miners. What do you notice? And Jacob, I'm going to put you on the spot again. What are they all working with here?
What are those? Shovels?
Shovels, picks, and pans. There's a pick up here. There's a pan here. Shovels, picks, and pans. And do they look particularly wealthy?
No.
Do you know who became particularly wealthy as a result of gold rush?
I have some ideas. Levi Strauss.
Ding, 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 ding. Exactly that. The blue jeans from denim, which comes from denim in France. Anyway, these are the folks that got enormously wealthy. There were a few people who struck it rich. Sadly, many of them spent all their money in brothels and saloons in San Francisco. But the people that provided the picks, pans, and shovels were in many cases those that got wealthy and built enduring businesses. Levi Strauss, that business is how old now? Yep, 174 years, if I recall correctly, something like that. So the question you ask yourself, and I do not know the answer, but what are the picks, pans, pants, and shovels of the AI gold rush? And as I said, I don't know the answer, but for those of you that are doing the AI panel next session, I hope you leverage this. All right, we have time for 1 more, and then we'll take a few questions. What's the last one?
So the next most votes went to the menu approach, but did you touch on that?
Which we already did. We already did that. So what's after that?
Next in line is mousing, Zippy mouse syndrome.
Mousing, perfect. Whoops. Perfect. And this is a fast one. So Zippy mouse syndrome. How many of you, using the chat dialog box, how many of you would willingly admit that you suffer, if not frequently, but at least occasionally, from whipping your mouse around wildly, also known as Zippy mouse syndrome? What are we seeing?
We've got a
chat dialog box. Zoom, zoom, yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to tell you a true story. I was at a trade show with a colleague who we'll call Kevin because that was his name, is his name. And Kevin was my pre-sales guy in the trade show booth. And he suffered, he still is extremely bright, but he was also extremely rapid with his mousing. And his mouse was whipping around the screen. In fact, let me know when this mouse grows uncomfortable to watch. Type it in your chat dialog box, or Jacob, you can just let me know. So this is what it looked like. And in the middle of a demo where his mouse is flying around the screen like this, the prospect reaches his hand out, places it gently but firmly on Evan's mouse hand and says, back a few years, he says, "Son, you tell me where to click and I'll move the mouse." And that's the way the rest of the demo went. And by the way, it was a very successful demo. They bought that software, which I will tell you it was called Reax, and you guys can all look up how old that was. I won't tell you. So Zippy mouse syndrome, what causes it? Two things cause it. One is just not being cognizant of what you're doing to your mouse, but the other is the way that we use our eyes and our hands. So when we mouse for ourselves, the mouse tends to follow our eyes. So where is that arrange command? Oh, there it is. So that didn't bother me, but I expect if you were watching that mouse in the audience, you were all going, "Ooh, hand me the Dramamine." So when you're mousing in a demo, before you move the mouse, go with your eyes to where you want your mouse to end up. So I think, I want to go to layout, then move your mouse smoothly and deliberately to that location on the screen. When you reach that location, take your hand off the mouse. How many of you do this over and around and around and around and around? Please don't. It's another call for Dramamine or another motion sickness drug. So,
Peter, is the screen share supposed to be on?
Oh, scheisse. Yes, it's supposed to be on.
We just lost
so
it for a
I will go.
Okay.
So what I was doing was I had gotten out of slideshow mode, and I was showing how moving the mouse from this location of the screen to this location. Traditionally, our mouse follows our eyes, and we're doing this. Where is that command? Where is that command? Oh, there it is. And what I was trying to suggest is find that location first with your eyes, and then move your mouse smoothly and deliberately to that location. Then release so your mouse doesn't move on its own. So that is Zippy mouse syndrome. Final comment on this is mouse visibility. I don't know how many of you guys work from large monitors, but in many cases, what your audience may be seeing, I'm trying to remember where it is, it's right there. Can anybody see that mouse? That's the mouse on that screen. My mouse.
Peter,
yes,
we still can't see your screen. Can you hit the share button again on the bottom?
Apparently so. Hold on one moment.
You paint a very vivid picture, though. I think we're all getting the idea.
I'm saddened by this this software. All right, you should be able to see it now.
Yeah, it's back up now.
Okay, so looking right there is that tiny little mouse. So two things. If you look at my mouse cursor here, it is not the standard Mac mouse. Two elements. Number one, it's bigger, and number two, it's filled in. So what I recommend you do is test this out on your own, particularly if you're working from a large screen monitor and you have people in the audience that maybe, this is particularly important over the web, that may have smaller screens. Go to preferences or whatever it is under Windows. Under Mac, interestingly enough, it's under accessibility, which you have to hunt for. But this is where you can improve the contrast, increase the size, and so forth. And this is what it looks like on Windows. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is what I was hoping to cover. Let me get out of slideshow mode, and I'm probably going to have to get back into sharing the screen based on what we've just learned. Just one moment here, so I can do a quick summary. So I'm going to go into slideshow mode again, go back to Goldcast. Yep, I have to share again. I don't want an entire screen. There we go. So I can do a quick summary, and then we can take whatever questions. So you should be able to see California Gold Rush. Give me a yes or no.
sorry, some technical difficulties. We're seeing a print label. I think you might have shared a
print label. Oh, for crying out loud. Ah, One moment. Share screen. Print label. Let's try that again. PowerPoint slides. How about now?
There it is.
All right, thank you. Oh, that's great. So what did we accomplish? We've actually accomplished a lot in our 50 some odd minutes. We've taken a look at the menu approach. We've talked about Zippy mouse syndrome and how to avoid it. We've talked about using the fewest number of clicks to basically communicate how easy it is to use your software. We've talked about situation slides, partnering, the best locations to pursue, Fool's Gold, the Lego story, the next gold rush, and a preview of the 3rd edition of Great Demo. You notice we did not do 1 or 2 of these on the list. To summarize, I do want to urge you to take a look at these resources, and more importantly, take a look at the resources on our website. We've got articles, books, our blog, podcast, and other webinars. I hope you found this useful. If you'd like to continue the conversation or you'd like the slides from this presentation, you can reach me. Contact information is located here. So in the remaining 2 or 3 minutes, any questions, Jacob? And thank you very much for your help throughout this presentation.
I can help. We got one more question in the chat. When is the 3rd edition available?
Hopefully it should be available in about, I'm going to guess 3 weeks. And I'm going to try to set up a way to pre-order. So I hope that addresses that. Anything else?
That's all the questions that we have. I have some closing slides, but thank you so much, Peter, for your amazing presentation. And you're getting some love in the chat. People saying the same thing.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, if you unshare.
I have to unshare? I thought that might be the case. One moment. Stop sharing. Here you go. It's all yours, sir.
Thanks, Peter. Okay, just a reminder for everyone, we have our DEMOFEST game this year. So each session you attend, including this one, and each session feedback survey you fill out gets you points, and you can win some of these awesome prizes that you see up here. And we're also very excited to be bringing DEMOFEST on the road again as DEMOFEST X. We had a great time in San Francisco in March, and we can't wait to bring the event to Dublin, London, and New York City later this year. You can register to join us at any of those at demofest.com. Also, that's in the link in the docs tab on the right. And please also stop by our expo hall, visit our premier partners of DEMOFEST. Remember, there's no transfer of money involved in this event. So all of our partners here have gone above and beyond to contribute to making this event a success for all of you. And thanks for joining us for this amazing session. Thank you, Peter. That was perfect. And we have a great keynote closing session coming up next. You'll automatically be pushed into that. But thanks again, Peter.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.